Fetus progression. Fetal development by week. You are pregnant. Congratulations. What does your baby look like? How big is he or she? When will you feel the first kick? Fetal development typically follows a predictable course. Week 1 and 2. Getting ready. The first week or two of the time allotted to your pregnancy. Conception typically occurs about 2 weeks after your last periods begin. To calculate your estimated due date, your healthcare provider will count ahead 40 weeks from the start of your last period. This means your period is counted as part of your pregnancy even though you were not pregnant at that time. Week 3. Fertilization and implantation. The sperm and egg unite in one of your fallopian tubes to form a one-celled entity called the zygote. If more than one egg is released and fertilized, or if the fertilized egg splits into two, you might have multiple zygotes. The zygote typically has 46 chromosomes, 23 from the biological mother and 23 from biological father. These chromosomes help determine your baby's sex and physical traits. Soon after fertilization, the zygote travels down the fallopian tube towards the uterus. At the same time, it will begin dividing to form a cluster of cells resembling a tiny raspberry amarula. Week 4. Implantation. The rapidly dividing ball of cells known as a blastocyst has begun to burrow in a uterine lining, endometrium. This process is called implantation. The inner group of cells will become the embryo. The outer layer will give rise to part of the placenta, which will nourish your babies throughout the pregnancy. Week 5. Hormone level increases. 3 weeks after conception, the 5th week of pregnancy, or the 3rd week after conception, the level of HCG hormone produced by the blastocyst quickly increase. This signals your ovaries to stop releasing eggs and produce more estrogen and progesterone. Increased levels of these hormones stop your menstrual period after the first sign of pregnancy and fuel the growth of placenta. The embryo is now made of 3 layers. The top layer, the ectoderm, will give rise to your baby's outermost layers of skin, central and peripheral nervous systems, eyes and inner ears. Your baby's heart and a primitive circulatory system will form in the middle layer of cells, the mesoderm. This layer of cell will also serve as the foundation of your baby's bone, ligaments, kidneys, and much of the reproductive system. The inner layer of the cell and the endoderm is where your baby's lungs and intestines will develop. Week 6. The neural tube closes. Embryo 4 weeks after conception. Growth is rapid this week. Just 4 weeks after conception, the neural tube along your baby's back is closing. The baby's brain and spinal cord will develop from the neural tube. The heart and other organs also are starting to form. Structures necessary to the formation of the eyes and ears develop. Small buds appear that will soon become arms. Your baby's body begins to take on a C-shaped curvature. Week 7. Baby's head develops. Embryo 5 weeks after conception. 7 weeks into your pregnancy or 5 weeks after conception, your baby's brain and face are growing. Depression that will give rise to nostrils becomes visible and the beginnings of the retinas form. Lower limb buds that will become legs appear and the arms buds that sprouted last week now take on the shape of the paddles. Week 8. Baby's nose form. Embryo 6 weeks after conception. 8 weeks into your pregnancy or 6 weeks after conception, your baby's lower limb buds takes on the shape of paddles. Fingers have begun to form. Small swellings outlining the future shell-shaped parts of your baby's ear develop and the eyes becomes obvious. The upper lips and the nose have formed. The trunk and neck begin to strengthen. By the end of the week, your baby might be about half inch 11 to 14 millimeters long from crown to rump. Week 9. Baby's toes appear. Embryo 7 weeks after conception. In the 9th week of the pregnancy or 7 weeks after conception, your baby's arms grow and elbow appears. Toes are visible and eyelids form. Your baby's head is large but still have a poorly formed skin. By the end of this week, your baby might be a little less than 3.5 inch, 16 to 18 millimeters long from crown to rump, the diameter of a US penny. Week 10. Baby elbows bend. Embryo 8 weeks after conception. By the 10th week of pregnancy or 8 weeks after conception, your baby's head has become more round. Your baby can now bend his or her elbow, toe, and fingers lose their webbing and becomes longer. The eyelids and external ears continue to develop. The umbilical cord is now clearly visible. Week 11. Baby's genitals develop. At the beginning of the 11th week of pregnancy, at the 9th week after conception, your baby's head still makes up about half of its length. However, your baby's body is about to catch up. Your baby is now officially described as a fetus. This week, your baby's face is broad, the eye widely separated, the eyelids fused, and the ears low set. Buds of future teeth appear. Red blood cells are beginning to form in your baby's liver. By the end of this week, your baby's external genitalia will start developing into a penis or a clitoris and labia majora. By now, your baby might measure about 2 inches, 50 millimeters long from crown to rump, the length of the short side of a credit card, and weight of almost 1/3 ounce, 8 grams. Week 12. Baby fingernails form. Embryo 10 weeks after conception. 12 weeks into your pregnancy or 10 weeks after conception, your baby is sprouting fingernails. Your baby's face now has taken on a more developed profile, his or her intestines and the abdomen. By now, your baby might be about 2.5 inches, 61 millimeters long from crown to rump, the length of the short side of a US bell, and weight about ½ ounce, 14 grams.